Kayleigh, welcome and thank you very much for joining us today. Trevor, also, thank you for being here.
Always great to be here. Thank you, Frank.
Kayleigh, could you introduce yourself? Tell us something about what you do, who you are, and why you're on the show.
Thank you for having me, Frank. It's a pleasure to be here. I am an indie horror author and playwright. I always forget to say that. And I run a horror review website called Happy Goat Horror, where I do everything bookish, but mostly my focus is on indie horror fiction and trying to promote all the great indies that people might not have heard of. So my entire life is very bookish. I have a bookish day job also. So um, so my entire life revolves around indie horror fiction, basically.
What's your day job? You said it's a bookish day job.
Yes, I work as a personal assistant for an American indie horror author who
Oh,
runs a small press. So I kind of for my own stuff, I'm on the author side. I'm on the reviewer side for Happy Goat Horror, and then I'm kind of in the behind the scenes indie publishing side as well for work. So I've been getting a good all-rounder education, I think.
excellent.
It's your life, Kayleigh.
Yeah, but yeah, it really is.
Tell me, this is one of the things I wanted to do when I ask people to come on is because I'm really interested in the beginning, like the very beginning, because as a writer yourself, there are so many elements that go into being who you are. That's obvious in real life. But as a writer, I think there is something more that we tend to overlook sometimes. Can you tell us something about where you grew up? Do you live in the same place? What was being a teenager like? What was the politics like at the time, or the music? What was it like when you were growing up?
I feel like I had a little bit of a thank you for asking this, by the way. No one's ever asked me this before, and sorry about the cat butt in the background.
Cat is great. Cat is good.
They're like children. They're at war now, the two cats, for some reason, now that I'm doing this. Yeah, this is a really interesting question, and I don't think I've ever talked about this before online. So my childhood was a little bit weird. I live in the town now that I'm originally from in South Wales, a little town in South Wales, but I grew up an army brat, as they called us.
Wow.
So I moved around quite a lot until the age of 9. So I lived in various places in England, and about a year I lived in Germany when I want to say 6. Pretty sure I was 6 there. And then we settled back here eventually. And the politics of the time, when I was a teenager, well, I don't want to disparage the town I'm from, but I think that people who live here could reasonably agree that this is a it's not a very diverse or accepting place of anything that's still considered different, and that goes for if you're a heavy metal fan, for example, and you don't fit into mainstream
Yeah.
music fandom. Um, so yeah, I felt a bit scattered as a younger kid. Didn't really have like roots, I felt. And then when we got back here, I really didn't fit in because I my tastes were I don't know. I think I was probably quite weird. I wasn't very good at making friends because if you move around as a kid like that, you like by the time you start settling, you're moving somewhere else again.
Yeah.
So I didn't have I very much related to Matilda
Yeah. Roller
in
doll.
that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that was kind of my upbringing. I did have a close friend in secondary school, but mostly I was a bit of a outcast.
So
I find, but maybe sort of horror fans, certainly more sort of hardcore horror fans like ourselves, who have been basically fans since we were kids, have always felt as
yeah.
outsiders anyway. Because we're not mainstream and we never have been. But that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my difficulty fitting in as a kid was because I'm Welsh and people tell me now that my accent doesn't quite match where I'm from. I
Yeah, I
don't
couldn't
sound
work out where you were from.
apparently I don't sound as Welshy as I should for the area that I'm from. But when I was a kid, whenever we moved to an English town, the kids in school, there was surprisingly not that many Welsh kids. So even army kids, right? So I would always get told in England, "Oh, you sound so Welshy," and I was kind of an odd one out because of that. And teachers in England liked my accent, and then they would insist on me talking. Like they'd be like, "Oh, Kayleigh's new. Say something." Like a performing monkey, and I was
Yeah,
really shy, so that was like painful. And then when I'd come back to Wales, because we came back and forth a bit sometimes, um, I'd get told, "Oh, you sound English." And there was this like thing about it because I obviously picked up some of like a Kent accent or a Dorset accent or something. And so I was really quiet when I was a preteen because I was like, don't say anything because
yeah.
I don't sound apparently how I sound is not right no matter where I am. So it was like it was a it's like a weird thing to look back on. I haven't thought about it that much, but that probably explains why I was so shy when I was a preteen.
Do you think that it led partly towards being involved in horror?
Yeah, I think that horror stories are mostly about people who feel or are othered.
Yeah,
And they tend to be underdog stories about people overcoming adversity, however that is. Generally speaking, obviously there's the more nihilistic side of horror, which is where I
yeah,
tend to write. But I think that maybe I just really related to characters that were like fighting evils all on their own when I first had my entry into it with the fiction I liked. So I think probably had quite a lot to do with it because I definitely didn't feel like I fit um like a Disney kid mold,
yeah.
for example. So
You wouldn't want to. No
yeah.
way.
What about music? Did you have a specific taste in music? Because I think horror fans usually do, don't they? They're very distinct about everything that they like.
Yeah, well, I'm a heavy metal fan, and I have been since I discovered like I probably it was probably new metal that got me like Slipknot and Linkin Park and stuff
Yeah,
when I was a teenager, and I still like a lot of the bands I liked when I first discovered metal. And I, s- I can't really remember beyond that. I just remember the first two CDs I ever bought, I bought on the same day, and they were singles, and it was Britney Spears, Toxic,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Papa Roach Last Resort. That was my
Oh yeah,
two.
I remember. Yeah,
So, but I was a closet Britney fan and still a closet pop fan because I don't know if it's like this everywhere, but when you're a teenager and you first discover metal, like, you absolutely cannot like any other genres.
yeah,
Like otherwise you're a poser or whatever. So I would like lie about liking NSYNC and pop that I like when I was in my metal phase. But my mum was into like 80s metal. My mum, had her sort of 20s in the 80s. So she played a lot of the bands that were out at the time. So my mum's like alternative as well, really.
yeah.
So I probably actually got that from her and it just took a little while to develop.
Did you does it do you think it goes hand in hand, music with the horror genre? Because I've got a theory that it does, but some people have said to me, no, not necessarily. What do you think?
I think so because I think that the I think that if you think of these as like groups of people like metalheads and horror fans, I feel like they're really, really similar groups in that until I found like the indie horror group and I started socializing with people, the metal group was the nicest group of people I'd ever met in my life, like the
Yeah,
most
totally agree.
accepting,
Yeah,
um, the most comfortable I ever felt was at Download Festival, where you're surrounded by thousands of people who are t tend to be good people, I think. And then when I started socializing and going to conventions, horror conventions first, and then more bookish specific ones, this is like I love going to these conventions because I feel like I'm at home.
yes, yeah,
Like everyone, this feels like it really does. I know it's a bit cheesy to say, but it really feels like family to me, and I consider all of these people my family. I really do. So, um, there is something to be said for the level of acceptance of anything that you feel is weird about yourself. Other people aren't. don't treat me like I'm weird in these spaces. So and a lot of horror fans I do find are also metalheads. I have a lot of
Yeah, they
conversations
are.
about
Yeah.
bands at conventions and stuff. So yeah, yeah, I do think that
There's
they're
always, yeah, there's always been a strong association between the two. I mean, obviously, it's not always the case, but there,
Mhm.
in general terms, there has always been a strong association.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think it's alternative tastes that for some reason are disparaged by mainstream stuff because
True.
people
Yeah.
look down on horror and people who
Hmm.
aren't in the metal spaces think
Yeah.
that metalheads are weird as well and they think the bands are demonic and um I think there's a
Bandit
wall.
filth,
Huh?
bandit filth, as Mary Whitehouse would have said,
Yeah.
are those type of people, it's that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a weird stigma around people who like metal and horror that we all must be like crazy or that we're
Yeah.
in some way demented or we have no morals. And I find it is so
Demonic.
far the other way in reality.
Yeah.
Which is why I like Ramsey's approach when he's talked in the past about meeting someone who's also a writer. And when they ask him what he does, he's very direct about it, rather than what some of us, not, I don't mean you or me necessarily,
Mm.
but some people are a little bit hesitant to say it directly, you know. And I think it does come from what you were saying, Kelly, about the different music genres are usually disparaged, or they were. Um, it's interesting that you say about the heavy metal group because I used to have really long hair and piercings and everything. But I know it's hard to see that now, but I grew up with a bunch of heavy metal dudes, and they took me into their group because I was dressing, as they called me, the Spanish waiter because I looked like a waiter. And they took me to a punk club to see the Exploited and the Melvins, and it completely changed me because I was already listening to music that nobody else in my village was listening to. My friends were cool, they didn't care,
Mm.
but they were all Whitney Houston fans, and I was into Nine Inch Nails and the Smiths and the Cure.
Yeah.
And so when I joined that group of heavy metal, the heavy metal people, they really were the most accepting people I've ever met. They were so well informed as well, though, about other musical genres. I learned so much from them. I'm still in contact with them today, and these
Mhm.
guys go to concerts like 2 or 3 times a week,
Mhm.
and they've got kids, and their kids are going to the concerts with them and are in bands. So I have nothing but huge respect for the heavy metal community. I absolutely think those guys are fantastic.
I went to see Extreme live a couple of years ago, and that's a band I never thought I'd get to see
Yeah.
because they've been touring a while, but I just didn't even know if they would still do a tour in the UK because they're very slow releasing albums,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
most of the crowd there was like a big mix of ages in there, and a lot of the crowd were in like Slayer hoodies and things like that. And then when they played More Than Words, that lovely
Yeah.
ballad,
Yeah. Yeah.
everyone was singing. And it was like, I was like, I'm having like a really weird, wholesome experience in a room full of people that are all dressed in black, singing their
Spiritual
hearts.
experience.
Yeah, it was wonderful. And I was like, because I don't know, I suppose Extreme are 80s metal, I get like
Yeah.
hair metal, you might say.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the amount of different people that gig attracted was love. I thought that was lovely. There was some really like hardcore goths, and then there were like people that looked like they were about, you know, pushing on 70 that were,
Yeah.
it was nice. It was like a real community feel in that gig.
When was the last time? When was the last time you went to a heavy metal club?
Um, Oh God, I don't go to a lot of gigs anymore because I have to really want to see they always play in London, the gigs I want to see, and I
Yeah.
hate going to London, so I don't go. The last band oh God, heavy metal. If you can count Steel Panther, and I don't think you can, I went to see them.
Oh,
Um,
I think you can count Steel Panther. My friends went to see them not so long ago. Yeah.
that was
They're
a
hardcore Slayer fans, but yeah, they love
that
everything.
was a comedic experience. I did not know what to expect from Steel Panther. For anyone listening or watching that doesn't know, they're kind of like they're like a 80s hair metal satire band. So they sound outrageously offensive when you start listening to them, but that's like kind of the joke. Uh God, I haven't gone to see like a hardcore metal band for quite a while now. I think Periphery I saw they like progressive metal.
I don't
They
know.
go quite hard with some of this stuff, but that was a few years back. And I went to a festival last year. What was it called? Oh my God, it was like it's a little prog metal festival in the UK, and I slipped my mind for it. Arctangent. So there were some pretty heavy bands there that um so yeah, I probably would do like a festival that was only about an hour and a half away from home. Uh but yeah, no London for me.
Is London, how far away is London from you?
It's about 4 hours, but it's just however I travel there. Like I've driven before, I've gone on the train. I just it's too big, London for
Yeah.
me. I'm a bit of a hermit, so it's a bit much.
Excellent. Right. Can you tell me something about your first memory of what's this? This is horror. Oh, can you remember?
Yeah, I always used to say Return to Oz, but going back further than that, I'm pretty sure that it was fairy tales and earlier Disney stuff because
Hmm.
the people don't consider horror, but absolutely is horror. So I was very enamored with stories like Hansel and Gretel. Fascinating. I've always loved Hansel and Gretel. And the Disney films that I liked when I was little, I really liked Alice in Wonderland, which you might be able to reasonably say there are at least elements of that that I would say are horror, like kids horror. Um, there is a queen that wants to behead her and a
Yeah.
psychopath cat. And also Snow White, I found quite scary, the original
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Disney
Yeah.
version. So I think it actually came out of fairy tales and Disney, weirdly, because I didn't like the jollier Disney stuff, and I still don't. I'm still very much drawn to the dark. Like there was one called The Rescuers that starts with
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
About
girl
mice?
being.
Is that about cute mice or something, is it? Or
Yeah, and I don't remember anything about that apart from that I loved it. I watched it 1,000 times when I was a kid, and the thing that the scene I always liked was the first one where they're lowering her into a cave because they wanted to find treasure, and there are like skulls and stuff down there. So like it was this early Disney stuff, I'm pretty sure, because that was what I felt very drawn to.
I would say as well, you mentioned Return to Oz. I
Mm.
remember watching that on VHS as a kid, and it's pretty dark.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those
it's a
wheelie
horror film.
things. Oh yeah, those wheelie things, and
Yeah.
also there's a Wicked Queen in that as well, I believe.
Yeah,
And
Mumby.
yeah, yeah,
Wasn't it
yeah,
a young Feruza Bulk? Was it?
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so what, after this though, when's your first like concrete? A lot of people say Doctor Who that I've spoken to. Not for me, and I'm not sure about even for Trevor. But what about you? What was on TV? Was it different? Because you said you were in Germany as well, weren't you?
hmm I
And now
don't
you.
re I don't remember what I was watching there. I think
No.
I was
Okay.
too young, but concrete horror, I think I must have asked to watch some horror because I
Yeah.
liked scary stuff, or I asked for scary stuff, and my mum was quite strict about like what was age appropriate and stuff. So maybe Gremlins, something like that. Um and Critters I was also allowed to watch, which is obviously a bit grislier than Gremlins, but I think they're
Yeah.
fluffy monsters, so my mum loved that film as well. So those, yeah, those and Return to Oz, I would say Return to Oz is horror, but
Yeah.
I
It is.
think the more family friendly, slightly comedic horror films that I was allowed to watch, Gremlins and Critters, I would say.
Although Gremlins, you have this trauma
Yeah.
of the character because her dad was trapped
Yeah,
in the chimney. Yeah.
I was just about to say that the most horrific scene in Gremlins is when Phoebe Cates talks about her
Yeah.
dad on Christmas Eve. The reason she doesn't like Christmas is because on Christmas Eve, her dad dressed up as Santa and tried to come down the chimney, but died. He got stuck and
Frozen
died,
to
and it's
death.
like,
Yeah.
Bring back the Gremlins. They're less disturbing.
Gremlins is the film that keeps giving as you get older because the older I've got, the more I've liked it. Because when you're a kid, like I remember Phoebe Cates' monologue about her dad in the chimney, but when I was a kid, I didn't care about it. I was more like, yeah, monologue, but I was like all just for the Gremlin scenes. And then as I've got older, I'm like, this film is way funnier than because a lot of the jokes go over your head when you're a kid as
Yeah,
well. Like
of course.
the scene that gets me every time now is when they're carol singing. And they're like all dressed up in the hats, and like, for some reason that absolutely kills me every time. It's so hilarious because
I
like
remember. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying because the Gremlins are just little shits. Like
Yeah,
Yeah. Oh,
they are.
I
They are.
I
They are
remember.
little
I,
shits. Yeah, they are.
I remember as a kid finding it absolutely hilarious. The scene, it might be the same scene actually, where the carol sing at the sort of grumpy old woman's house who's in
yeah,
this stair lift thing, and
yeah,
they mess
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
controls, and they saying they're flying up the stairs and out the roof type thing.
yeah.
Oh,
It's so
Stripe.
God. It's so funny to me that film. Like because I didn't realize as a kid that she's dead. Because she's upside down and with his feet sticking up in the snow, but like later on, I was like, "That's hilarious!" Like that, oh, I do envy the kind of writers that can write something like Gremlins where like there's death all through it, but as a kid you don't even register it because of the way they framed it. I'd love to write something like that. I don't think I've quite got that skill.
Joe Dante's that's the beauty of Joe Dante
Yeah.
films, though, is he's one of those guys who can just marry the two, comedy and horror so accurately. You see other
Yeah.
people try to copy it. Some people are successful, but yeah,
Mm.
he's very underrated, I think, Joe Dante. I think he got kind of smothered by Spielberg's shadow in the 80s, but
Yeah.
his films are always really well worth looking at again and again. As you said, Gremlins bears repeated viewing. What did you think of Gremlins 2? Because when it first came out, everybody was disappointed. I was, and then I rewatched it, and I'm like, this is actually quite it's really quite a
Clever.
very
Meta.
clever sequel. One of those nobody's going to get it until many, many, many years later, which is a shame because you don't want that to happen. But what do you both think of Gremlins 2, Kayleigh?
I think I like it as much as the first one.
Yeah,
I always did because I thought that they were really creative with the like the monster types in that because they had a
yeah,
few like variants and the spider one all
Spider.
it
yeah,
still gets me. And yeah, the one that's taking interviews, like the
Yes.
oh
intelligent
yeah, with
one,
the
like
glasses. Yeah,
yeah, I think I kind of got the themes of that when I was young because I got that that was about like um I don't
More
know,
satirical.
yeah, corporate America and but
yeah,
I wasn't like ruminating on the themes as a kid, but I think I got that they were just going for it was kind of different. It wasn't a small town feel in Gremlins 2. It was
yeah,
a bit
yeah,
wider. But I think it's really good. I really like it.
yeah. I think it. I
I
think it's excellent.
remember. Yeah. I
Trevor.
remember at the time, whenever it came out, being a little disappointed and thinking
Yeah,
they went too far with the comedic stuff. But I, although I haven't seen it in years, I think I would appreciate it much more now. I get it. I still enjoyed it, but maybe I was looking for more of a sort of, a repeat of the first one. Where
yeah,
it's more horror orientated. I remember really liking Christopher Lee popping up, Dracula.
Yeah,
Who pops
the way
up
they
in it.
framed him.
Uh, and the spider, what you mentioned, the spider gremlin. And then there's no this really deranged, like sort of crazy gremlin in it or something. I remember
Yeah.
it's like all over the place and stuff, and
And
crazy eyes and stuff.
in
Yeah,
hindsight, the really sexually aggressive one girl gremlin as well.
that's right. That's right. And
yeah.
she's also, yeah, it's sort of lipstick and all and over the top. Pat Butcher gremlin.
I don't think he got I think after that, because it bombed, I don't think they gave Joe Dante another budget again. I think it was a big studio deal. That always
Oh,
happens with horror directors. It happened with Carpenter, didn't it? So
Yeah,
it's a shame because it's because he's a really clever director. But to go back,
yeah.
okay, so I'm going off on a tangent. Um,
that's all right.
well, what was your first love in terms of horror, not necessarily a film or a TV show, maybe in fiction form. Can you remember the first time though that you actually said, "I'm going to read this again. I'm going to watch it again. It's one of my favorites," and to this day, it's still true.
Um, there was a book Christopher Pike wrote called Monster, and that was the first book that I can remember where I was really aware that I was reading horror, and
Hmm.
I read it. I still have my copy of it. It is so battered. And it had, it had one of those like shiny embossed covers, and it's all cracked and everything from like how much I read it.
They're the best kind of
And
books though to have in your
Yeah.
bookshelf.
yeah, and I've been asking my mum for like scary stuff, so it was a Christmas present, and I remember opening this and reading it and everything, and I remember how I felt when I was reading it, and she was trying to find me age appropriate stuff, and I don't think that she read much into this book because I don't think she would have given it to me. It was like YA, I guess, but I think I was about
Yeah.
10, 9 or 10. So I was maybe a little bit young for it, but there's a the opening scene is like a high school party, and the main character just kicks a door in, or a character kicks a door in with a shotgun, and she is very specifically gunning down certain people at the party. And it
Oof.
was very graphic, and I was like, oh, my mum definitely doesn't know this scene is in here. Don't talk about this book to her because she'll confiscate it. Um, and I I was so like in. I was so interested, and and it wasn't really, I was like shocked by the violence and awed by the violence, but it was more about like why anyone would do something like that. And it was just like the first kind of story that I've ever read. She had good reasons, by the way, for anyone wondering. Um, but
Spoiler.
yeah, that was a great book, and that really like I wanted to read everything horror after that. Such a great story. So Christopher Pike is who really sealed it for me, I think.
Wow, I mean, 10 years old reading about it sounds like a mass shooting.
It was like just a few, it was a few people. I
Just a
suppose you
few.
might call that a mass shooting.
Just a few,
Just a
you know.
few,
But
Frank.
but it was because they weren't quite themselves anymore, these
Yeah.
particular people, you see, and she knew about it. So
Yeah.
but I was very fascinated with like maybe I've just had an epiphany because I've always, to this day, what really scares me is like that uncanny valley thing of things that look like people but they're not people.
That's my thing
um
as well. Yeah, I love that.
I think it must have come from that book because that went a bit more into like a specific monster subgenre, but that thing of like people walking around and you think they're normal, and then there's just something ever so slightly off because you
Invasion
think
of the
Yeah.
Body Snatchers type
Yeah,
thing. Yeah. Children of the
yeah,
Damned. Yeah.
I've been
yeah,
obsessed with that theme all my life. I'll never get tired of it. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Did you take these books with, I don't mean as a 10-year-old, but when you were a teenager, did people know that, oh, this is Kayleigh, she reads horror? Did you take it with you to school? I did, and people used to call me
yeah,
for a short period of time the Twilight Zone boy, which instead of taking as an insult like you're a weirdo, I was just like, I am the Twilight Zone boy, thank you. Did you have
yeah.
that at school?
Yeah, do you know, I just realized I must have been younger because from there I got a library card, and I used to go, my mum, I was allowed to get the books out of the teenage section. So
Yeah.
maybe my mum had said to the librarian, like, she can have this section of stuff. And I was getting all those point horror books out, but I remember taking those point horror books to school when I was in year six. So I would have been 9 at oldest. Oh no, wait, that's 10 and 11, isn't it? Never mind, ignore what I just said. But yeah, I used to take him to school. I don't know what other people thought about me because I was just reading. So I was a bit like unaware, I think, of like I had no self-awareness, I guess. So I have no idea what other people thought. But
No, it's a good thing
yeah,
though, isn't it? It's a good thing. You go to school, it's like if you really love something, you don't care what other people think.
no, yeah, I read every chance I got, and some Roald Dahl as well. I was reading when I was a kid. Kind of light on the horror with the kids stuff, but
Yeah.
still weird, weird fiction. So yeah.
Okay. Kelly, I'd like to also ask you about you went to university, didn't you?
Mhm.
Yeah, can you tell me something about university? Because I know it ties in heavily with everything that you love and the horror genre. Can you give us a bit of a background about what you were doing at university?
Yeah, so I went a couple of years later than most people because I didn't know if I wanted a degree for anything. I thought, oh, I'll go into the working world first, and then that
Yeah,
was horrible. So I was like, oh, I'll go back to school actually. Um, I like it there. I studied theatre and media. Um, because I thought about English, but I just had a look at the syllabus and I just wasn't interested in the books on the
yeah,
syllabus. It's like it seemed to me it seemed a bit narrow because I really wanted to study horror stuff, really.
yeah.
So I angled everything that I could in my third year towards zombies because that was my main interest at the time, and they will let you do a surprising amount if you have a passion. I wrote my dissertation on The Walking Dead.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Um, I was really lucky to have a supervisor whose specialty subject was horror. So he was like genuinely really interested in everything I was doing and just really encouraging as well. And he took me to things like there was like this zombie symposium, like an academic zombie symposium in Plymouth that he managed to rope me in on as part of a trip. That was 2 days of lectures and workshops about zombie related, like people had flown in from Europe and everything to do these classes. It was fantastic. And then from oh, and as part of my script writing course on that degree, I wrote a zombie sitcom play, like a kind of a Friends style thing, but set in the zombie apocalypse. That actually got staged afterwards, which
Oh,
much to
wow.
my shock.
Yep.
Um, it was great. Not my writing, but like the fact that it got staged, it was great. And then I did a master's degree in script writing straight on from that. And did everything I did was horror for that as well. So, but I love school as an adult. I hated it as a kid.
Yeah.
Loved higher education as an adult.
Would that have been around the time you started creative writing, essentially, or did you write beforehand, maybe as a younger kid, and even in primary school or secondary school, grammar school?
My master's year was the year that I first started getting published because
Yes.
the lot of the skills are transferable because it's storytelling. So I
Yeah.
realized why I was getting rejections during the master's year. So it was really helpful to me. But I've always written. I remember I think the first things I can remember writing, I was making remember those like kids' little flat books where it's like, where's the cat? And then there's like a
Yeah.
dustbin lid and you lift it up.
Yeah.
I was making those. I made loads of those when I was a kid, and my mum was like really proud. And I just remember her being excited when I was like, "Mum, I've made a book. I made a flat book." And they were always about our cats. And then I was writing stories. I remember writing this story when I was in year six, so I was like 10, and this is when I was reading all that point horror stuff. And my it was like a creative writing assignment, but I went mad with it. Like I took my workbook home and it was like 30 pages long. And it was a really demented plot in hindsight for a child to write. It was about a I don't know if I maybe got this from a different book or I don't remember now, but it was about an infertile babysitter that kidnaps her like the kids to keep them forever in her attic. And I'm
That's
sure
really
that
dark.
that plot might have been in one of the books I read, and maybe I like did my own version of it because I can't imagine that I could possibly have conceived of that on my own at that age. But yeah, that was the first time I had major positive feedback because my teacher was like really impressed with it and he tried to get it published and everything. He like invited an agent to the school to look at
Oh,
it and
wow.
stuff. So obviously they didn't take it, but like that made me feel um like somebody outside of my household having that much faith in me, that made me feel really, really good. So
That's actually really good work by the teacher. Very, very encouraging. Because I've
oh,
always
I love
said,
him.
yeah, that I think a big help if you want to be a writer is having, as a kid, is having a an English teacher, especially that is encouraging and actually supports you and sort of, gives you advice and all that sort of thing. I had one in second year, and that was it. And I always longed to get that same teacher. And I've actually been in contact with him since, on social media, just to thank him for the great encouragement he gave me and my writing when I was 12, 13.
Yeah,
I had that as well at school in primary school, but at 8 years of age.
Yeah.
And I remember that because let's say that I come from kind of a troubled background when I was a kid. And so I think this teacher could see that things were not perfect for me in the world. And she really, really encouraged me to write. I remember taking my story and putting it on the wall. It was about the Battle of Culloden, so obviously it was just full of people being dismembered. But she saw something in that, and she inspired me as well. I tried finding her, but I couldn't find her. I'm
Yeah.
nearly 55, so I'm hoping she's still alive, but I've still not been able to track her down. But she'd be pretty old. Sorry, I just turned that very depressing then.
oh
Kayleigh, sorry.
no, I think these amazing teachers like don't I don't think they realize the impact that they have because I've
Yeah.
always loved that guy. Always like I
Yeah.
was lucky. He ended up being the head teacher of that school, which is very well deserved because he was easily the most wonderful teacher. He really cared. Like he really cared about what he was doing. And then when I had my first short story club, because every now and then I had a younger brother who's 7 years younger than me. So this teacher was the head teacher when my brother was in the same school. So every now and then I'd still bump into him and he'd always like, "Oh, are you writing? I can't wait until you have books out." And he'd always say that to me. So when I had my first collection published, I went to give him a copy and he was not at that school anymore, but I did manage
Oh,
to find out which school he was at. And I called and I just couldn't, like, they wouldn't put me through to him. I don't know what they thought I was doing, but they wouldn't
yeah.
like put me through to him. So I just posted a copy of the book to the school for him that I knew he was working at, and I hope he got it. But yeah, I always thought if I ever get like, and I dedicated the book to him and another English teacher I had later on. They just so invaluable teachers like that. They're
Totally
so
agree.
important.
Totally agree. And, as I was saying, every sort of, during the summer holidays, every year after, before we got our school rota for that school year coming up, I was always hoping upon hope that I got Fat Pat again. That's what he was known as. That was his nickname. But he was just a brilliant teacher. But sorry, I'm taking over a bit.
No, 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 no. This is great. This is great. Um, Kayleigh, so from because Trevor asked you the question about the first time. Can we go back a little bit? Because I want to
Yeah.
ask you about the first time you got published and how you felt about it. I ask everybody this question because I remember what it was like for myself, and I remember being I can't even put it into words really, which is I'll say this again, crap for someone who writes. But can you remember the first time? Is it a very vivid memory or not?
Yeah, I'd been submitting things for quite a while and I was on a website called Spine Tinglers and I was submitting things to that all the time. And I guess that was the first time I got like published anywhere was on that website. And it was like a it's just a short story and it was like they Spine Tinglers would do like they'd like you just send your stuff in and then they'd publish like the top 5 stories of the month
Hmm.
or something, and then they'd be like a cash prize depending on how you were placed. So I think I got like £30,
Oh,
um, or something like that. And I came like third place for the month, and that's where I found another writer that was like my first writer friend actually, Nat Robinson. I don't know if he's writing anymore, but I found his stuff there. And then the first time I got published in print was in an anthology called In Creeps the Night, and it was a flash fiction.
hmm.
Um, and I'd been submitting to anthologies for a while and I wasn't getting placed. But again, because of the skills I got on the script writing course, one of the exercises that we had to do quite a lot was condensing the whole plot of a feature-length script into like one log line or a paragraph or 100 words. And that was really, really useful for me learning how to write flash fiction because it's so hard so
Yeah,
hard to tell a story in 100 words or something, but like it wouldn't if I really think if it wasn't for that MA, I don't know. I feel like I would have started getting published eventually, but my progress as improving as a writer would have been much slower. So yeah, I do feel like I owe my MA a lot for that because I got that I was so excited, just couldn't believe I was getting published. I was really
Yeah.
excited, and then I had like three more acceptances like within the same few weeks because I'd sent loads of stuff out, and I was like, oh my God, it's happening! Like it was all like charity anthologies and like no payment kind of thing, but I didn't care. I just wanted
Yeah.
stuff published at the time, so yeah, it was really yeah, that was like a fun little patch of time because I was just working so hard. So it was nice to see someone else wanting to publish my stuff.
What kind of a writer are you? Do you plan, or are you someone who just let goes with the flow?
No, I completely pants everything. Usually with a short
Yeah.
story, I get most of the time with a short story, the entire story just occurs to me in one go.
Yeah.
So I usually write the first draft of a short in one sitting and then I go back to it. And every now and then I struggle. I get like I feel like I have a good idea, but I don't have a story around it. So I'll
Yeah.
struggle with things like that sometimes. I'm working on longer pieces now. I've only had shorts published so far, but I have written a couple of novels, but they're terrible. Like that's not just me being self-depreciating. Like it's not the first novel that I want to put out with my name on it,
Yeah.
kind of quality. But I've learned that I definitely need to take a lot of notes to make sure I don't forget what I've written a month ago in chapter two. But I tried plotting some novels after, and I found that even harder than just kind of going instinctually because
Yeah.
it was like taking the fun out of it for me. And then if I went off my plan, I started panicking. So hopefully I'll get there with longer fiction. But yeah, I just kind of go with the flow. So go with it at the moment.
I'm exactly the same as you. What about you, Trevor?
I would have with a story, I would have a general sort of plot outline, but sometimes whenever I'm actually sitting down and writing it, the story sort of takes over, or I'll have other ideas, or it'll maybe go in a different direction. Now, for about 15 years now, I have what I hope will possibly one day be my first novel completely plotted out in terms of chapters and all that. Now, obviously, it's evolved a bit over the years, but it's getting the time to actually sit down and write it. But it's related to time travel and also witchcraft. And it's called A Beginner's Guide to Time Travel. But again, it's getting the time to actually sit down and actually do the work and actually write the thing. But, and no doubt, as I was saying, as I do have general outlines for my works, get into them. They do sometimes take on a mind of their own and evolve. That sounds quite pretentious,
No.
might but yeah. So I would generally plan, but sometimes these things do evolve, which is a good thing, obviously. Well, I would hope for the better.
Well, I think every writer's different and every writer has similarities.
Mhm.
When you're writing, Kayleigh, how many hours do you write?
Oh, that I mean that really I have learned to not try to have a rigid
No.
writing
Yeah.
plan for the week
No.
because um don't know if it's okay to say this. I haven't been like formally diagnosed with anything, but several people have suggested to me that I'm possibly neurodivergent.
Yeah.
And that might be why I get very stressed if a plan goes awry. Like I do plan out like my work week and things I want to do on certain days, but if something happens and I get thrown off my plan, I get overly stressed about it and then it like crashes me for the rest of the week. Like it's like, oh, the whole week's ruined because
Mm.
I lost 1 hour I planned on Tuesday or something. And I've learned that if I can't have like a writing routine because it immediately becomes pressure for me to write and then I don't want to. It's the weirdest thing. So I tend to find that when I sit down to write, I don't write every day. But when I sit down to write, I can be there like 4 hours without realizing any time has passed. So
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
really have a good or useful answer to that. It's I should write more, I think, because I would really like to make money as a writer and spend more of my time writing. But I'm still this is only like sort of recent revelations about myself that I'm because I'll learn like another author's writing routine and then like oh maybe I'll try to do that and then that
Yeah.
doesn't work. But every single author I've ever talked to has a completely different writing
True.
routine or
Yeah.
So
Although, Kayleigh, although you don't have a writing routine per se, do you find you would prefer and would write better at either, say, the morning at a particular time of day, say the morning or at night or whatever?
I used to only write like in the middle of the night, like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Same. Yeah, same.
I used to work nights though, so I only worked like a couple of days a week on that night job, so I'd be awake in the middle of the night all
Your
the
body
time.
clock. Yeah,
Yeah, and I found that was I love the dead of night. It's so quiet and peaceful, and
absolutely.
nobody
Yeah.
expects you to do anything at that hour. I kind of write all over the place now. I'm more of a morning person these days, so I kind of just grab my laptop. Like all of a sudden I'll just be like, oh, I have to write. I have got out of bed a few times earlier than I was going to get up because I've felt like, oh, I'm like, oh, I really got to get this idea down. Um, so like the excitement of writing has come back a lot for me in recent months. Because I've been writing for specific submission calls and things, and that's really helped me keep in the swing of making sure I try and write every day. I work quite well to a prompt, like a
Yes.
submission
A
call in
deadline.
between. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm not good at self-imposed deadlines, but other people's
Yeah.
deadlines
Yeah.
I'm pretty good with. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you tell us about some of your publications?
Yes. So the most recent thing I was most recent publication I think was it was like a comedy horror anthology called Tales from the Lark Side, and that
Yeah.
was a reprint of a story that was in my first collection, which is currently out of print sadly because the press closed. And then the last original story that I sold, and it was my first like prorate sell, so I was really, really excited, was in a Flame Tree publishing anthology called This Way
Oh,
Lies Madness,
wow. Yeah.
um, which I'm still dancing around in disbelief that I got a spot in that. And like I've never been so happy in my life getting that email. Because
They're a
Flame
big, I mean, they're like flagship publisher for horror.
they're and they were a bucket list publisher. I've
Yeah.
got bucket list publishers I really wanted to be, and also one of my bucket list things was I wanted to be in an anthology with Ramsey Campbell, and he's got a
Yeah.
story in there. So I was like, oh my God.
I would say as well, Kelly, to your credit too, I know from talking to the editors of This Way Lies Madness, Lee Murray and Dave Jeffrey, that they were absolutely flooded with thousands of
Yeah.
submissions. So to your credit, you beat a lot of people.
Oh, thank you. I
Y-
with submission calls like that, when there's a theme, I try to think outside the box of
Yeah,
what I think people might write about, and then I try to
yeah,
think outside of the box that I've thought into because I'm like, oh, because people are going to think out of the box, and
yeah.
people tend to end up quite similar. So I try, yeah, I tried really hard with that, and then I have it's like a micro collection with one of the Shadows books from Black Shuck books called
Keep
The
shot.
End, which is about it's all a fairly mean-spirited collection of apocalyptic stories, some comedy horror and then some just like sort of straight up horror, which I really had fun writing that. I've I've recently been thinking I might pitch another one to Blackshuck because have had another themed idea. So I really like the end of the world. That's kind of a favorite
Yeah.
Because
subgenre for me.
I was going to ask you,
Who
would
doesn't,
you?
who doesn't love a good apocalypse?
I just
Sorry,
they're
Frank.
just so good.
No, 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 no. Good point. Good point. Yeah, definitely. Um, I was going to ask you about, would you say that your fiction have similar themes, or are you very varied in what you write?
Um, you know, thematically, things have been pointed out to me by reviewers that
Yeah,
I did not realize. So, I really enjoy writing funnier horror stories. That's where I really have the most fun writing. But I think that my more personal stuff comes out in the straight up horror. And I've had it said to me that what I write well, and I would like to think so. But I didn't realize this was a theme. Is difficult familial relationships.
hmm
Um, I write a lot about strife between siblings, which is not necessarily like I think I think people have assumed now that everything I write where there are siblings is based on my real life, and it's not. It's just sometimes but I'm interested in using siblings to explore really difficult friendships and things I've had as well. It's just that there's something about a sibling bond to me. And yeah, I write about trauma a lot without realizing that that's what I'm doing until afterwards. Um, I this is like public knowledge, and I've fine talking about it, but I was involved in a really serious car accident about 15 years ago, and I suffered a lot of physical and emotional trauma because of that. And so I do and I feel very well now in general, just all round, but like I do tend to channel that quite a lot because I just feel like that's an area that I lived through and it's very vivid in my memories. So I feel like that's something I could use, but I don't mean to do it a lot of the time. I
Yeah,
just realized I was like, oh shit, I've written another PTSD story.
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought I was just going to do vampires this time, but
But that's
that,
part of the catharsis of writing, where we bleed on the page,
mhm.
even when we don't realize it, subconsciously, we're bleeding onto the page and getting out all of that pain and past trauma and post-traumatic stress or whatever.
It's
So
a
yeah,
it's not always that I'm writing from a place of pain either. It's just that
yeah,
because I am so familiar, I feel like I just know that part of like for me what was my sort of emotional spectrum. And it's really interesting to work with and it works really well in horror. So yeah, a lot like I think I do worry sometimes that people think that I'm crying over my keyboard as I'm writing this stuff, but a lot of the time I think that I've just written you know like a horror story, and then like people are like, oh, I really the themes are blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, that is what I did, but I wasn't
yeah,
having a difficult time with it as I was writing it, if that makes sense.
yeah.
I would.
What I sorry, go ahead.
No, no, Trevor, Trevor.
Well, no, just what Kelly's saying. Yeah, what with me, certainly a lot of my earlier fiction, what I would have called bastardized versions of the truth. In terms
Yeah.
of there is elements of the truth there, but they're completely exaggerated for dramatic purposes and for the sake of a good horror story.
Mhm.
Very,
Yeah.
very true. That's that. I think that's something that everyone who writes, whether you're a horror writer or not, the bastardized truth. I'm going to steal that for a
Yeah, it's a
title.
great phrase.
Feel free to, yeah.
Copyrighted. Screw
You,
Trevor.
you just pay me money for the copyright infringement.
I was gonna because it was interesting about what you were saying, Kelly, about the people when they're writing, they don't realize that they've written something in a story until somebody else reads it. I remember to quote Ramsey again, when I think it was the doll who ate his mother, there's a very small background detail where one of the characters is walking past a playground in Liverpool and two kids are playing football. And he describes it like there's a statue of Jesus is like the goalie. And
Yeah.
he didn't really think of, he obviously thought about when he's writing why he's doing that, but not about the religious symbology of it. And later somebody said to him, your Catholic background is really showing in this scene. And he's like, I didn't even notice. I wasn't even writing it for
Yeah.
that in that respect.
Mhm.
I think that happens all the time, even in the tiniest details, not even in
Yeah.
the most prominent details. I think it's the little bits and pieces. And I think that's why it's always interesting if you go back and reread what you wrote at a later date. You
Mhm.
look at stuff and you think, I didn't even realize that was in there in the first place. And then you give yourself a little pat on the back for being smarter than you
Yeah.
actually are.
I
Yeah.
went through this patch of time of my favorite characters were to write were, say, men of about the age of 50 that were a bit grumpy and like
Yeah,
So
unfortunate.
me and Frank then.
could be. Yeah.
Um, and I think people, I think a couple of people said to me they had kind of had this impression that like, oh, have you had like a bad experience with like a grumpy middle-aged man? And I'm like, no, 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 no. I was like, I did again, didn't do it on purpose, but I think what that was, and he's not grumpy at all. This is what I mean, like bastardized truth.
Yeah.
I have an uncle, my uncle Gareth, and I adore him. like I love him so much, and he's a very quiet, reserved person. So he's not grumpy by any means, but like at like the kids' family parties, he's just a bit quieter than everyone because he's like milling around taking care of stuff. And I spent a lot of time at his house when I was a kid, and I I don't know, I just always felt like I had like a bit of an extra little bond with him. As a niece, and I think that that's what was coming out in those stories because I was very lovingly writing these characters and kind of like from where they're coming from, even though they're not him. But I think that that's what that was at the time because I was I can't remember why it was, but I was just feeling especially loving towards him around that time. So I think that that's what that was, even though those characters were in no way, shape, or form him, apart from like of a similar age at the time, you know. But there's I just people with their quirks and the kinds of things that they do get irritated about is what fascinates me with people that are not from my particular background or like people of
Yeah.
other genders and things. I really enjoy um what irritates people for some reason. I just find it there's so much comedy in it sometimes, I think. So like that's what I was working with there. But no, that was more of a fun tangent I kind of went on writing.
But these are people who influence you. What about writers? Who would you say are your biggest influences?
Oh God. The obvious one of the obvious early ones is Stephen King. I think a lot of people would say that for the reasons that have been gone over a million times by people, like
Yeah.
excellent character work and things like that. Um, God, Adam Neville is a
Mm,
front runner for me, but I could never be that type of writer because he's so literary and a completely different style. But he's so wonderful with language, and he's one of the few authors that whose work scares me. Like I
yeah.
genuinely feel I've learned a
Yeah.
lot from listening to Adam talk about his approach to writing horror, and
Yeah. He's brilliant.
he likes, yeah, he likes to play with like stuff that's familiar but it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I feel it was I'm going this is going to be a bastardized version of what he actually said, but I can't quite remember. But he said something about he wanted to describe a body that was like a dead body, but he wanted it to be scary. He didn't want to just say a dead body. So he
Yeah.
described it as something like it was a dead body in a sack, and I think he said something like it looked like a sack of like broken tools or something. And I was like, oh God, like because I got the
Mm,
image, and
Right in your
so
head, yeah.
I feel like when I read an Adam Neville book, I'm absorbing lessons from like how he tells his stories and describes things. Um, I'm influenced by so many. Gosh, I don't want to leave people out, but I couldn't possibly list all of my
yeah.
influences.
But
So many, but
who would you say is your most recent find? I mean, even if they're well known or not, even if they're obscure, who would you say you've been reading recently and you've been floored by their writing?
I really enjoy. There's an American indie author called S.Q. McGrath, Sarah McGrath, that is phenomenal with structure, and her stories are like there's always a sting in the tail and a twist that I never see coming. But she writes really interesting stories, and she's not very well known at all. Like
Oh, I
if you
don't
go
know
to
her. Never heard of her.
no, if you go to her like Amazon profile, you'll see there like
I
aren't
will.
many reviews on her books, but she still has consistently put a novel out a year. Like she's got so much work out there, and she's always posting about writing and how much you really feel like how much she loves what she does through
Right.
it. So I really admire her, like her work and her attitude towards it. And yeah, I think she's great. Oh God, it's like yeah, I'm always floored by indies. I think that Phil Sloman, I love
Yeah.
his shorts. I think he's unbelievably underrated, Phil.
Yeah.
And underread. Like he does it.
Yeah.
Dan Howarth is a recent one actually.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
Yeah.
debut, Last Night of Frida, had no business being that good for a debut. I
Yeah.
was like jealous. Um, Gemma Moore. Yeah, sorry, I could go on all day, but because I received so many review requests, I read a lot of authors that I would never have heard of before, or I
Yeah.
might never have come across them, and I'm more often than not, I enjoy their work, and more often than you'd think, I'm really impressed by what I'm reading. So I think I get a little bit from everyone new that I picked up recently. I've been on quite a good reading streak.
Yeah,
Full of-
you're, I don't know how you fit in the amount
Yeah.
of books that you read. You must be the one person who reads more than anybody else I know. If there's anybody else who reads more than you in 1 week or 1 month, I would like to know who that person is, because I don't think there is anyone who reads as much as you do. And we all read a
But
lot, but blimey.
yeah, I would have
Well,
to agree with that, Kelly. I do not know how you get the time, quite literally. Yeah.
oh, I sometimes I don't know. Like I keep a running list on a whiteboard in my office, so that
Yeah,
I know where I
you
am
must
with
do, yeah.
Yeah.
just of what I've read because I like to do my monthly wrap-ups for books and stuff on YouTube and just to keep track of everything I've read. And sometimes I look at like what number I'm on so far for the year and I'm like, geez, like I've had no free time. I don't know how, but it's like if I've got, 10 minutes when I'm waiting for something I'll read and if I pick my phone up and start scrolling, I'm like, nah. And then I pick up the book next to me instead and read for, like even if you're only reading for 5 minutes, you can get through a surprising amount of books.
True. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I try to be in the habit of reading every night when I go to bed now, like to make like a good hour for reading. And
Yeah.
I do read a variety of lengths of things though. Like I think people have like
Before we move on to the final part, the third part, I actually want to ask you though, because a lot of the people we have on, like it's an international TV show, and I've had hundreds of guests. Um, but I talk to writers like yourself, but you're also a podcaster. In my opinion, you're the best podcaster for the horror genre that we've got. I watch everything that you do, and I think that everybody thinks exactly. I'm speaking from a place of truth, aren't I, Trevor? Everybody
Well,
watches Kayleigh.
what Daily does for the horror and the writing community is basically unheard of. I
Yeah,
believe anyway.
yeah,
Certainly within the sort of British circles anyway. But yeah, no, Kelly is very much flying the flag, and everyone is sort of has nothing but praise for what
yeah.
Kelly does with Happy Goat. And I was very honored to be on it myself at one point. So yeah, you know, Team Kelly.
oh, thank you. Oh, that's so nice. I don't know what to say. Thank you.
I because for me, why I think you're such a good podcaster is that you're very natural. I stumble over my words because I even though I'm online 8 hours a day talking to lots of people and teaching them, I stumble over my words because I get a little bit nervous sometimes. You're very you're very natural in how you speak to people. It never seems forced or rehearsed. And I don't mean rehearsed like you're not organized. I just mean that it comes out very naturally and you're very articulate and very, very clear. And I think with all of those elements merged together, I think that's why it's such a pleasure to watch. Because I've watched a lot of other podcasts before and some are good and some are okay. And the ones that are okay are because they seem a little bit flat when they're speaking to people, um, almost like they're afraid to speak, and that might be nerves. That might be because they're introverts, and even introverts want to have podcasts. But with you, I think it's a much more natural approach, and I think that's why everybody responds to you so naturally. But what do you think is Kayleigh's appeal as a podcaster, Trevor?
I think Kelly has a very nice way about her, but at the same time, it's not bland or empty. You're getting to
Mm,
substance as well. So while you have, dare I say it, a soothing effect, whenever you're speaking to people or speaking to us now, I would say at the same time, it's not just fluff. It's we're talking about like we're getting to a proper conversation here. So I think it's a great combination. I do, as Frank said, think you're a natural.
you're very informed as well. There are too many people who
Yes, yeah.
I think they want to. This is why I've got Trevor and Ben in there because they're the anchors. It's like, Frank, keep your mouth closed because you're going to go off on one. And I think that
I've
I
never
think
been called I haven't been called an anchor in a while.
you
Although
are my anchor, Trevor.
usually it's a word that sounds very like it and begins with W.
Yeah, so I think you've got that natural approach, but you are incredibly well informed. I mean,
Yeah.
I've written notes down after you've said something about some, just like today with the author that you mentioned before. I will be checking out that person. So you've sent me often some discoveries, and I'm like really grateful for that. And I know that a lot of people are really grateful for that because sometimes it's a thankless task. You put up a lot of video. I don't want to say the word content. I hate that. You put up a lot of videos with really interesting people. Like I say, you interview people who are really well known, and then you get people in that maybe are not so well known, but because of them, they've got a bit of a platform. People are checking out the. I know that they are. They've told me people are checking out their books on Amazon or whatever publisher they're with. So we are all very grateful for what you do. But can you tell me when it first started? When did you first say to yourself, "I'm actually gonna have my own podcast show"?
So firstly, thank you. That's lovely. Thank you so much. That was a little bashful right now, but that was lovely to hear. Thank you. Uh, well, it started with the website, and I decided that I wanted to have my own website for to write book reviews in. It must have been during lockdown, but then I didn't actually launch the site. I wanted to have a good name for the site, and couldn't think of one for a while. So I probably spent quite a long time because I knew I wanted to have a .com, and I'd have to buy the domain and things. So I thought about it for ages, and then uh, I think that the website's been going between 3 and 4 years now, and then the YouTube channel came about a year after I launched the website. So that's the YouTube channel is like between 2 and 3 years, I think. And I just wanted a place of my own to talk about whatever I
Yeah,
wanted with the books, because I've written for other websites, and I'm tremendously grateful to Jim from Ginger Nuts of Horror, who
yeah,
was the first website that I wrote for, and he was so welcoming, and I basically just put what I wanted on there too. Um, but I think I don't know what my my starting point idea for Happy Goat Horror was in terms of what I wanted to achieve or anything. I just wanted to carve out my own little space where I could rant about things that I like. And then the YouTube channel was that was a weird one because the first few videos I filmed never saw the light of day because I was cringing so hard at seeing and hearing myself. But I
yeah,
think everyone says that you just
yeah.
kind of get over it um, a few videos later. The interviews, which is my personal favorite thing on my channel to do, that came a bit later because I didn't think that because the channel was so small in terms of subscribers, and it's still a small channel, um, I just didn't think that people would be interested in being interviewed by me because I didn't think it would be worth their while for like publicity,
Yeah.
especially the traditionally published authors that make a full-time living and they don't need my help promoting their books. But I have found that authors, whether they're in mainstream publishing or they're indies, have been very kind and generous and willing with their time. One of the first people I got to interview was Ramsey Campbell, and he didn't. I know Ram. I'd like to think that me and Ramsey are friends now. I've seen him a lot at conventions, and I've spent time with him and Jenny, his wife, at conventions, and I love him to bits. But at the time, he didn't know me at all, and I
Yeah.
literally sent him a message on Facebook asking if he'd be interested, and I said, up front, I've only got about 100 subscribers, so it's not a massive amount of reach for you or anything. And he was like, "Oh, I'd love to." And I was like, "Would you?" Because I had no, there weren't any. I'd also, the first person I interviewed, I believe, was Richard Dansky, he writes on video games, like some really big AAA video games. And he also writes horror fiction, which is how he came to me because he sent me a review request for a book. So yeah, that gave me a bit more confidence to ask people going forward. Because I was like, oh, but maybe because I'm really enjoying talking about my work now. So it's nice. It's nice to get to sit and talk and answer questions and things. So yes, but I'm very, very grateful to all the authors that have given me their time to allow me to do this at all.
When you started podcasting, though, how long was it before you? felt comfortable doing it, or did you feel straight away that, oh, I can do this, it's no problem?
Oh no, I still feel uncomfortable.
Do you really?
Um,
Oh,
yeah, but the thing I discovered really quickly with the interviews in particular, is so when I interviewed Richard Dowski, Ramsey, and Adam Neville was early on as well, and that was I can't even describe that to you, that what that was like for me. I was so worried about being a bad interviewer that I had all of these questions. But then I found that having like a set of questions, if like one of them went off on a tangent or something and I lost my place, I'd panic then about like,
yeah,
oh no, I've got off track, and I'd get a bit tongue-tied. And then I realized that I didn't really need an interview script because I was only asking authors to be interviewed that I was like a really big fan of at least one of their novels that I felt like I knew inside out.
yeah,
And so I'll think about an interview ahead of time and like if there's anything in particular I wanted to ask. But generally, I don't write anything down at all now because I make sure that I only interview authors when I know that I feel really comfortable that I know their work so
mm,
well that there's no way I'm going to run out of questions. And I prefer the conversations like that because a lot of times questions come out of answers they've given to other questions, and
true, yeah,
I feel more relaxed. I'm always nervous before an interview. I feel relaxed a couple of minutes in to any given
yeah.
interview, and then the other stuff I do that doesn't involve anyone else in a video, I'm pretty relaxed about those because I can just not post them or edit around or whatever. But yeah, no, I really love doing the interviews. It's just it's a joy for me as a someone who wants to make a living, ideally as a writer one day. I just can't believe how many brains I've got to pick so far.
Do you?
Hard would you say, Kayleigh? Oh, sorry, go ahead,
No, no,
Frank.
no, Trevor, please, please.
Yeah, yeah. And how would you say Happy Goat has evolved since it began and where it is now in terms of, you've sort of explained it with your previous answer a bit, but in terms of the format and, other things, such as, well, you've already said that you're more comfortable interviewing people and stuff, but in other respects, how do you feel it's evolved?
Um, it's been quite natural, because I don't have like an end goal with it or anything. Like the
Yeah,
original intention was that um as an indie, I know how hard it is to get reviews. You can spend hours and you can spend weeks at a time sending review requests out. You can send like 1,000 review requests out and then maybe get like 3 reviews out of those. And that's just how it goes. And because I'm like in the indie horror community and I really enjoy reading so many of these books, I kind of wanted it to be like a reader and author friendly space. I've broken a couple of cardinal rules apparently. Things like I keep hearing discussions that authors need to stay out of reader spaces. And I agree in one regard that I don't think that authors should be weighing in, for example, in Goodreads reviews of their books,
no, yeah,
arguing with people.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I do think that that's bad form. And in general, if I see the rare occasion that I've ever come across a conversation about anything I've written, unless I have been tagged, I don't comment on it because I
yeah,
just don't want people to I don't want people to feel put off about airing their honest opinions in case they think I'm going to roll up and see it. Like, because I know people worry about upsetting authors, which reviews are for readers. But I I think that there's just a level of common sense and etiquette that authors are readers.
yeah.
And I wanted to make a space where authors were always comfortable approaching me to help them promote things and ask me for reviews. And I hoped to reach a lot of readers by promoting the things I like. And I do write honest reviews. Like I feel very uncomfortable if I have to be a bit critical of a book that I didn't like as much, but that's just
I've noticed that with your reviews. Yeah, you bend over backwards sometimes, I think, to be nice. And I see the little critical bits, and it's almost like you've got a guilty conscience about doing it.
that's something I'm trying to work on because that's uncomfortable for me, especially if I know the author personally, which is quite often the case now, or I've reviewed something of theirs before, or at least know them online. But I do try to make sure that however I word it, I make sure I do comment my criticisms because I want to have integrity as a reviewer
You
and for
do.
readers to
You
trust
do.
me.
Yeah.
I don't want readers to think that I'm just going to be positive about everything I read because that's not the case. But I try to be fair when I'm writing a critical review. The way it's evolved, like yeah, I have been told I shouldn't be tagging readers in the reviews I write, authors in the reviews, but I'll always be like, oh, Trevor Kennedy, you've been goated. It's kind of a thing now. But I only do that when people have asked me for a review and when I've really enjoyed the book. So it's a positive review and the author asked me for it. And if I'm friendly with them, like if I'm not associated with them on social media and I don't know them, I don't do that. But if it's people I know, I do because but yeah, apparently that's kind of a rule
I
breaking
think
thing, but
I think generally speaking, authors, if it's a positive review, authors are generally very obviously very happy because it's, giving them, if you tag them on social media or
mm,
whatever, because it's giving them, and their work, well, potential sales essentially. But I do know that some people, obviously not yourself, have written quite scathing reviews of books and then
Yeah.
tag the author, and it hasn't went down well. I think that is a bit
I
sort of,
don't really see
it
the
is a
point
bit of
of
a,
that. That seems a
yeah,
bit
yeah, it's a bit of a shitty
contentious.
thing to do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, in the first like few months when I was running the website, I think I might have done that because I had a couple of pe other people reviewing at the time, and I had Angry Goat who tended to read. So that, but and I think I
or
did
go,
tag an author, and that taught me a lesson. I was like, oh, why did I do that? That was a really
Yeah.
critical review. Like, so what I do now instead, if it was a request and I've written the review and it's critical, I'll email the author and let them know that the review is live and just give them warning that I
yeah,
had
Yeah.
criticisms. But then if it's a positive review that somebody I know asked for more, I'll tag them in the review on
yeah,
online. Um, the way it's evolved is I'm a bit more intentional uh, with what I want to cover in terms of recommendations now because for example, there was the first year I realized I looked back at everything I'd reviewed one year and I was like, almost all of these books are written by straight white cis men. And
Yeah.
I will never stop reading books by straight white cis men, but I just realized how narrow my own reading
Yeah.
choices were because just
Yeah.
like because
mhm,
of how you grow up and the things that are publicized to you and
yeah,
things. And so I intentionally went looking for more diverse authors, like just women to start with. For I was like, I'm a woman that writes, and I'm
Yeah.
not reading many female authors. So I just try to make sure that I'm giving recommendations that would appeal to a wider group of people and the stuff that I really enjoy. It's only recently that I've started to look at my stats on anything as well, because I was afraid that if I saw that certain posts weren't getting many views, that I'd get obsessed with the views and then I'd start altering my
Yeah.
content, or like what I talk about. But uh, the way the way I think about that with the back end stuff now is if I notice that something did a lot better on the website than I expected, and I really enjoyed writing it, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll think of more things like that then. But I haven't, like, there's some things where like 12 people read the post, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm still gonna
Yeah.
carry on
Yeah.
posting like
Of
that as
course.
well.
Yeah.
So, you know,
yeah.
I, s-
I
It's weird how the algorithms work, in terms of, because certainly with some of the stuff that I've put out or whatever, on social media or whatever, and you think, yeah, this will do really well, this will get a good reaction or whatever, but then it doesn't. But then something you didn't expect to do well and get a good reaction does. So it's the
yeah,
algorithms are quite funny.
I don't one thing that I said to myself and I sometimes I catch myself thinking, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm like, no, I'm not, is making things that I think will take off because you never know. And like I recently made a video that was like kind of like a video essay stylish kind of thing about Angela Kang that wrote on The Walking Dead, and it's one of my worst performing videos. And even for me, like I usually get like maybe up to 500 views on a video if I'm lucky. Some of them have gone a bit quite far beyond what I expected, but not many. And the Angela Kang one was about 40 people watched that, I think.
yeah.
But I just I just don't care because I think Angela Kang is a phenomenal writer and I wanted to talk about her writing. So
You shouldn't
um,
care. You shouldn't care. No,
Yeah, yeah,
because you're doing this. You're doing it. It's a passion for you. You know
yeah.
what you're doing. It's like with writing. Someone once said, "Oh, do you sell many?" I said, "No." They said, "Oh, how do you feel?" I say, "I feel great." This is like a person who doesn't really read very much, and I said to them, I write firstly for myself." So I'm happy if someone wants to publish something of mine. I said I get plenty of rejections and I get plenty of acceptances, but that's just the way it is. And I think you've got to have a bit of a thick skin in terms of writing. And
Mhm.
someone once gave me a very useful piece of advice. They said if you're a writer and someone criticizes your book, they still paid for the book.
They've
They
still
have
supported you.
Yeah, they have an
Yeah.
opinion. They may be completely wrong about what they've read. Maybe they don't understand what it is that they're reading, but that's not for you to decide. And I have very thick skin when it comes to that kind of thing. I've looked back at stuff and gone, I can pick apart my own work and say, I'm sorry, but that's just shit. And you should have done better than that. And it's not done because I'm oh my God, the world. I love what
Mhm.
I do, and you love what you do, and you love what you do. And I think that you shouldn't change anything about your reviews. I said you bend over backwards, but I didn't mean that in a negative way. I meant that for once somebody's actually posting reviews where I'm reading what you really think, but you're very positive and supportive. And you, when you are critical, you're critical in a very positive way. I don't think anybody could ever have any complaints with what you say. But authors, I do think if they get a review and someone takes the time to do it, especially like yourself, especially as another writer who's got her own writing time to deal with, I think people should just deal with it. If it's, I know
yeah.
you don't do the overly negative thing, but if you did, I don't think anybody really should complain about it because one, you're also an informed reader. So you know the whole genre, you know what you're talking about. So if you reviewed someone's work and they didn't like what you say, I'd say tough because I would say at least you were being reviewed by someone who knows what they're talking about. And I think that's really important, really important.
May I say
As we've
something
discussed,
about?
sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
go on.
Yeah.
No, no, go
No,
on.
no, no, go ahead. No, I was
Oh,
just going to say we've talked before about reviews and getting reviews of our own work and doing reviews and stuff. And it's in terms of a negative review or whatever, if it's constructive criticism, take
Yeah.
it on board. You know.
the if I could just say something about negative reviews, I just feel really, really strongly about this, and I think that a lot of, especially indies and especially people who are like new to publishing, we would all love to have glowing reviews and nothing
Of
else,
course. Yeah.
but negative or critical reviews are so important, especially to indie writers, because say, for example, I think that critical reviews are a sign that your work is reaching a more authentic audience. Because if you've got 20 reviews on Amazon and they all glowing 5-star
Oh
reviews,
yeah.
then
Yeah.
a reader that doesn't know you that goes to that page is going to see that and assume, probably correctly, that that was people in your social circle supporting you.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's not always, obviously, some, but that's the assumption people are going to make, and it's because it's so hard and it's so slow on a lot of indies to like build up a number of reviews. You need a mix of different star ratings and comments. Otherwise, people don't trust that the positive reviews are reliable. So
True.
if you've got negative reviews and critical, even 1-star reviews, they legitimize the good ones
They
as
do.
well.
They
I
do.
Um,
agree.
and the other thing that authors need to remember, and I do find this hard, I'm an author as well. I've been hurt by comments about my books and things, but the reviews aren't for you. So like
Yeah.
in a sense, like if someone sends me a review request, I'm doing the review because the author asked me to, but the review I write is for people reading the review that might want to pick up the book. So I think that authors have, I think it's just so important to not have an ego. And even if the review's horrible and it's not constructive, it wasn't meant for the author's eyes in the first place.
Yeah.
And um, it can be hard, you know. We've all got feelings and stuff, but I just feel so strongly. Like there's a YouTuber that I follow because she has got completely opposite horror taste to me. So when she at the end of every year does her 10 worst books of the year list, I add them all to my TBR. So they
Yeah,
negative reviews can also sell books for
Yeah.
you.
yeah.
It's you just have to not you just can't take it personally, and you can't assume that you can't take it on board, that meaning that your book is bad either, because it's all subjective opinion, however informed the opinion is. I had a comment in a review of my collection, The End, which was so helpful to me because there was something that I had an issue, and the two last stories in the book, I was like, I don't know why, but this feels weaker than the first few stories to me. And
Hmm.
I don't think it's the stories themselves. And I could not for the life of me figure out what my issue with this was. And then in the end, I was like, I'm gonna have to just send it now because there's nothing else I can do to it. And I can't. And then someone in a review said that the first three stories featured protagonists that were really active. And then the last two stories felt a bit weaker because the protagonists were people that were having things happen to them and they had no agency. And I was like, that's what that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, going forward, if I structure a collection again, I'll be mindful of that now because that it hadn't occurred to me that that's what I had picked up on in my own book, and I just couldn't. I was too close to it to like. And that person, I haven't responded to the review because don't want them to feel uncomfortable, but I probably will ask them to proofread something for me in the future because that was really valuable feedback. So, sorry, that was like a bit of a tangent. I just think
No,
No, no, no,
that's
no, no.
totally,
This, yeah,
totally relevant. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not
completely.
I'm not an expert or anything. It's just for all of the authors I've interviewed, like you think Ramsey Campbell doesn't get bad reviews. I see so many people slating Adam Neville, which is baffling to me, but a lot of
Yeah.
people don't like his writing, and you just you're
You want
doing
to
it
step
right.
in. You want to step in as well when you read that, but you can't. You want to step in. I want to go, do you know who you're talking about? You're talking about Adam Neville and Ramsey Campbell. Let me give you a 5 hour lecture on why you should like it. Like, you can't do it.
No, it's again because it's so subjective. Like when people are like, "Oh, I hate Stephen King and his tangents," I'm like, "The tangents are
Yeah,
my favorite part."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like just
exactly. Exactly.
um,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, I just said all that just to like, yeah, for anyone who's like new to publishing or feeling like particularly down about reviews, I view every single review, whether it's good or bad, as a win. Because, and I don't mean to
Yeah.
be like salesy about it because I haven't made loads of money from my writing or anything, but as far as sites like Amazon go, it is actually the number of reviews that matter, not the content of the reviews. Before like you have to have so many reviews on Amazon before it starts recommending your book to other people.
That's right.
So even if you have 50 negative reviews, if that's the cutoff point, your book's going to start getting pushed out to a wider audience. So like anyone, I'm always grateful for any feedback online because it's like a little bit more word about my work. So
yeah.
I just think we should all embrace it.
We
Embrace it
should.
all.
We should. We should. I will just say one final thing about that, which is the problem with getting glowing reviews, which, we all want them. The problem is that you buy into the narrative that you are definitely the hero of your own story, and that, oh, I knew I was good. It's like the Adrian Mole kind of thing. You think you suddenly feel that you're an undiscovered genius. And the problem with that is the balance, it's out of whack. So when someone does give you a bad review, and it is gonna happen,
Mhm.
you're then I've seen authors online like go after that person, and then everybody that they know starts to support that author. And okay, they're their friends saying, yeah, yeah, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. But I think they're doing a disservice to the author, as you've just said, because you've got to take everything with a pinch of salt. So if you get a
Yeah.
glowing review, secretly celebrate and wow, fantastic. I've done
Mhm.
it. I've posted things when someone said something nice. I've been
Yeah.
like, oh wow, thank you so much. Might not secretly believe all of it, but thank you. But I can't then shed tears because somebody else has said that that shit, I didn't like it, because you just can't buy into that narrative all the time. You've got to try and stay balanced. And I think that it is hard, but you're right. You've got to be more balanced about it, I think.
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
try and put your pride and your ego aside a little bit.
You
Like
have to.
I had I had comments about a story I wrote where the reviewer said that they did not like my depiction of the mental health of one character, and they thought it was like a bit a one note and like stereotypical or offensive. And I didn't agree with the review because the mental health of that character was based on me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but what I would never argue with the reviewer because that's how they read my work. And what I thought was maybe I didn't convey what I thought I conveyed then. So I didn't take it to heart like, oh shit, I fucked up with it. Sorry about swearing. I don't know if that's
No,
all
no,
right.
swear away,
I,
please.
I didn't take it on like really to heart, like, oh no, I really made a mistake and I didn't stress about it, but it did make me consider like because I was writing from such a personal place, I think I just assumed that what I meant was coming across, and maybe it didn't for some people. So like that again, that was another thing to consider going forward when I write is like, because you know, like when you know your own story,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
when
of
you tell it
Yeah.
course.
to other people, they receive it differently. So that made me think about like, um, just from that angle. So, you know, they might have misunderstood, or maybe I didn't communicate my intention properly. So I think it's okay to be like a bit bummed if you get a bad review, but I just think they've still done you a favor writing it in the
Yeah.
first place. So
But the
Yeah.
main
But
problem
this
is,
is it. Yeah.
can I just say something, Trevor, very quick, so I'll forget because of
Oh no,
my
no, it's all good. Yeah.
cognitive decline. I would just say this, that we social media, because we're not taking, well, we are taking into account, sorry. What I mean is before the internet, we couldn't interact with the author
mm,
anyway. We would read a review in a newspaper or a journal or a magazine. And now it's wide open. So the one thing that you just brought up, which I think is important, which is everybody's going to say, I don't agree with your depiction of this or that. And sometimes they're right, because it could be someone's completely ignorant and wrote something that's quite offensive, and they're just
mhm,
totally clueless about it, and they shouldn't be writing about it.
yeah.
But there are too many people throwing the like, oh no, I'm coming from this, so it should be represented like that. And it's like, well, no, people are very complicated. Mental health issues are the most complicated. And
Mhm,
so you're never gonna always be accurate for everybody else. But as long as you stay true to yourself with what you're writing without wanting to sound pretentious, that is the reason that you do it. Because writing, because we forget, writing is it's not publishing. Writing is human
yeah.
communication. So you might not be published. I know someone who writes who's not interested in publishing, and they're brilliant. And that's because it's an infrastructure, and we do need it because we want to read the best, and we don't
Yeah.
want to read stuff we don't like. But it's still human communication. So I think in terms of the fact that it's human communication, to tell somebody else that you're not representing the mental health issue accurately when the person was writing from a place of complete truth and they're writing about themselves, I think that's the problem of social media because it allows us that interaction with the person who's created it. Everybody wants to give the two pennyworth, and I think it's a difficult area to navigate, very difficult. Trevor, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You
Oh
wanted to
no,
say,
no, no. You're fine. It's all relevant. I was just going to really say that I think the thing with getting sort of apparent negative feedback, it depends on the context and who it's coming from and what their intentions are. For example, I've had some very critical, regularly get some regular constructive criticism about the stuff I do. And it's about bringing it on board and learning from that because I know that it's
yeah,
coming from an authentic place. Whereas you might get someone, like in this case, Achilles talking about, who, by the sounds of it, has got it wrong. So this is the thing. It's about knowing, where certain people are coming from or not, and sort of then if it's coming from an authentic place and it is actual constructive criticism, then take it on board. At least that's what I try to do, that sort of thing. But I agree with what you're saying, Frank, about social media is just this, it is just, white noise and there's just, it's chaos.
yeah,
So it is about taking social media in context because it's not the real world and it's, everyone's going to have an opinion about, you know, everything, type
yeah,
thing. That's why I don't get involved because it's just, you're on a hiding to nothing from the beginning. You know what I mean? You
yeah,
get, basically, you could say anything, literally anything
Yeah.
online, and someone's going to disagree. You could go on to social media after this interview and say, "I believe in world peace," and you can guarantee somebody will come on and say, "Well, actually, I have a bit of a problem with that."
Yeah,
It's just the
yeah,
way it works.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know.
exactly.
I think the negative stuff takes off on social media more than positive things as well. Like
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yep.
this is one of the principles of Happy Goat Horror that I don't talk about ever. So this is kind of an
Yep.
exclusive.
Yep.
I have mentioned this before, but the reasons I will never make a worst books of the year list. And it's not because I disagree with people making those, because like I said, I wait for those lists and then add books off those lists onto my personal wish list. And again, it's a lot of readers. It's your right. You've bought the book. You're airing your thoughts about the book. I think it's fine. It's just that the whole point of Happy Goat Horror when I started it is that I wanted to help promote indie work.
Yep.
And I don't think that a worst of list is conducive to my, what
No,
I'm
yeah,
trying to achieve. Um, I am very aware that if I made a video or did a post of my top 10 worst horror novels of 2026, I know that that is guaranteed to get me at least twice as many views as my favorite
yeah.
books of the year. Um, so sometimes the temptation, like I see people post these like rant videos, and I watch rants. I'm really entertained by things like this sometimes, but I don't like the that it can become such a negative like comment space, and because I'm kind of going for community, I don't want to be in my own comments fielding a bunch of like negativity like
Think about you posted a video on 28 years later.
yes.
Yeah, and
Yes, I did.
yeah. Tell us about the response to that between posting something that's positive and posting something that's negative. What was the response like?
Well, I had a much bigger response. So the video had thousands of views. I normally get hundreds of views, and the engagement, like in terms of like the comments per views, was ridiculously high. Like, I think like yeah, there were hundreds of comments on that. And I always say I'll reply to every comment, but I'm used to getting about six comments.
Yeah,
So I got a bit obsessed. But people were like I really hated 28 Years Later.
I know. Yeah, I remember.
So I tried to come at that, my thoughts on it. I tried to be like, I feel like I am missing something that everyone else seemed to get because I went online and saw loads of positive reviews, and I was like, I don't understand why anyone likes this if you're a fan of the original
Yeah,
film. So my approach to how I wanted to talk about it was like, can you guys let me know what you think I
yeah,
miss? Like, what did you get that I haven't got? But then as the video went through, like with my criticisms, people like just disagreed with me and people were mad, and I got called stupid quite a lot. That was like kind of the main themes. People were calling me dumb. Somebody appeared and said, "This is a Ben Shapiro level criticism." And I was like, oh my God, I'm mortally wounded with that comment. It was just a lot more like, and this wasn't all the comments. This was like comparatively, there were more people agreeing with me, but it's like this is the most negative I've ever had in terms of comments. Like the scale of the negativity, if that makes sense. So I didn't take any of it personally or like feel the need to argue with people. I did reply to all of the comments though, because I said I wanted a discussion and people, gave me
yeah.
a discussion. So I did
Well, what you
reply
wait
to,
for?
yes, I was like, I literally asked for people to comment and they have. So I ended up having quite friendly conversations with even the people that were coming at me, for the most part, because I was like, you don't have to be rude and call me stupid.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't approach this video from the stance of like everyone who liked it is dumb.
Yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
acknowledging that whatever lens I've watched this through is obviously different to people who liked it, and that's what I was like. Um, but yeah, when you post something that's like 10 books I loved, my top 10 favorite vampire books, you're just not going to get vitriol normally.
Yes. Yeah.
And that I can see why a lot of people veer into rant content if they're trying to make money with what they're doing. I can see how this can become like the next thing you know, all of the stuff you're making is like top 10 films I
Re
hated and the worst books I've ever read. And um
Rage bait.
yeah, and a lot of the time it's not even rage bait. Like I follow loads of booktubers that talk about books and have videos like this, and especially lots of like horror film channels will do it as well. It's just for me, I was like I I hated this film, but I actually didn't kind of want to. I didn't want to have a negative space on Happy Go Horror that went really weird, and I was like, oh okay, and I did have to catch myself for a second because it's not nice to repeatedly read that you're stupid. But then also I was like, I don't know these people, so I don't really like.
Yeah.
I don't really care if someone thought I was stupid because I didn't like 28 years later. That this
Well,
is what happens if you post on the internet. Like you have to
I
be.
have to admit that I was one of the ones who commented, but not in a bad way. I
No,
didn't
no,
say anything
you
rude.
didn't attack me.
I commented as well, but like I say with Ben, when Ben posted something the other day, like, you're dead to me, Mr. Unsworth. That's it. It's like,
Yeah, but it's a jest. Yeah.
yeah, it's in jest. It's like, I actually thought you made fair points about it. I can actually see constructively why you thought that about the film. I love the film, but it's
Yeah.
again, it's not for me to tell you to you need to think like I think.
Like,
What's the point? What's the point?
No,
exactly.
it's just your own thought. Well, funnily enough, the other one of the other videos with the most amount of views and engagement, I posted a video about it was why I wasn't going to bother watching Alien Romulus, but it was basically an Alien Covenant rant because I hated Alien
Yeah,
I hated Alien Covenant, and that was a similar thing where people were like, "Well, I get what you say, but it like there were a few like angry responses in that as well. But I guess people don't like to be made to feel like they're wrong for the things they like, and that's how some people take it. It's like you don't
They
have
get
to listen
defensive.
to. Yeah, I mean, I'm not an authority on any of this. This is just my opinions on the stuff. Like it, I do try to deliver it in a, this is my opinion. I
yeah,
think my opinion's valid, but also if you liked it, your opinion's valid. Nobody is more right than anybody else about
exactly.
anything in the arts, unless we're dealing with something that's like egregiously like racist,
Of
objectively
course, yeah,
misogynistic or something. But
Yeah.
you know. I was, I'm happy that so many people enjoyed it. I don't want anyone to have I didn't want to hate it. I,
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to feel that kind of
Video,
disappointment.
your video was in no way nasty.
No,
So, but this is the problem with fandom in general. People get very defensive. Obviously it's a lot worse with bigger franchises like, Doctor Who or Star Wars,
Yeah,
especially Star Trek and all those ones. And it is wild, and it's just like, get over yourself. It's not important. It's fiction. We're discussing fiction, and we're trying to do it in a civil way. Stop throwing the toys out of the pram.
I I just think it's always good to approach everything with a level of humor. So like the people that were
Absolutely.
mean to me in the 28 years later video, I was like, oh, you can I did ask for your opinion. You haven't got to insult me to deliver it. And then
yeah,
most people were like, oh yeah, sorry, that was actually a bit harsh. I shouldn't have said that. And then I had nice, illuminating conversations with people, which is what I wanted. Um, but people take things really seriously, and I like
It's
I'm a bit
also
bad for misjudging
yeah.
sometimes how something's going to be
It,
received.
it's also the keyboard warrior mentality of people will say things online, the most crazy wild things that they would never in a million years say to a
yeah. That's
person
true. Yeah,
to their
yeah,
face. Yeah,
yeah,
because they can get away with it behind a screen.
People are stressed and angry these days, especially, and the people cannot wait to be mean online. I think it's like an outlet for some people that don't have any other sort
It's
of
like
catharsis in their life because
yeah, I think one of the best quotes I heard was by Stephen Moffat, the former showrunner of Doctor who received all sorts of flack, so much so that he came off social media. But he described the people piling all the hate onto him as serial killers who don't have the social skills to go out and meet real victims. Was I just like nailed it?
You
Yeah,
ever feel
the whole
sorry, go
Star.
on.
I love Star Trek, but I'm not a Star Trek fan in the sense that people really are. And one of the reasons is when I see Star Trek fans, for example, correcting another Star Trek fan on some technical issue, and it's like, dude, it doesn't exist yet. I know you might have a PhD in physics, but like, stop. People pick things apart so much, and it's like, if you've got a passion, you take it seriously. I'm not going to tell you not to take it seriously. I take a lot of things seriously, but for me. So I don't expect anybody else to take it seriously for me. But when they do that and they pick it apart and they actually watch stuff and then they post on the Facebook pages about, oh, I watched this last night and oh, it was in another language, but it should have been referencing this, or those kinds of comments about stuff that's
Yeah.
so technical. You know, oh, by the way, they shouldn't have used a Glock point. It's like, stop it, stop it. Like, watch it and enjoy it for what it is. If it means a lot to you, that's great, but stop attacking other people for for this because it's a medium and it's an art medium. Okay, I'll give you an example of something. John Doran, who's a music culture and critic writer, he once said that he's not interested in going to see a pile of bricks in an art gallery, but he's not definitely going to tell anyone that there should be a restriction on what you classify as art. You got a pile of bricks in a room, you might say that's not art, but it's not for you to decide for the other person that that's not art. And it's the same thing with our personal tastes. We've all been guilty of arguing with people. I've done it in the past a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I just think it's like shouting at the sky. You're
Absolutely.
not going to change the other person's point of view unless you're so articulate in writing online. And if you waste too much time writing posts online rather than doing something like actual writing, I think that's counterproductive. But you can't tell another person to change the way they look at things because 9 times out of 10, they're not going to change their mind. It's the same with politics online. It's the
Yep.
same.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be left wing. I'm always going to fight my corner. But I 15 years ago stopped doing it. Stopped trying to fight the corner, even if I thought it was the right thing to do. It's a waste of time.
And
I
not only that, why would we even care enough to want to change other opinions? We're not cult leaders. We're not Jim Jones.
Yeah.
So these days I just let people run on and don't get involved. If they want to scream at the sky about whatever, be it politics or Star Trek or Doctor Who, I let them run on. But
Yeah.
I refuse to engage. I'm too busy anyway.
I'll give the
I
last word to Kayleigh on this subject before
Yes.
we move on to your film choices.
I enjoy a nice-natured, vigorous debate with someone I disagree with on a film or something, as long
Yeah.
as we're both like, and you can get
As long
like
as it's
real,
civil.
you can get like real funny with it if you want to, and like start hurling sort of insults in jest.
Yes.
Like me and my brother like agree on a lot, but sometimes we'll have like conversations about things we've watched where we disagree with each other, but it never feels like we're having an argument because we're not trying to we're just like justifying our own opinions and not trying to change each other's mind about things. But sometimes it does change my mind. Um, but yeah, I think the major lesson, if we're talking fiction, is we all need to just chill out a little bit. Like, air your opinions, but like how don't go in a nasty way with someone that disagrees. I never post anything on Facebook about my opinions of films because usually what I used to get when I did that was like, why can't you just enjoy things? I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not attacking other people, but like I'm just my taste. I got grumpier and grumpier about films as I got older. And I'm
Yeah.
very aware that that is a me problem. So I just I don't normally post anything about stuff I don't like unless I feel like I really want to have a discussion about it. But yeah, I think we could all just do with exercising a little bit more, like not getting offended on behalf of the film that we like that other people don't
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
They don't know. Star
Exactly.
Wars doesn't know you're sticking up for it. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
really
Exactly.
matter.
So that brings us to the final part, okay, which is I ask people to choose one film, one book, or one TV or streaming show that they could probably reread again, watch again, what would that be? What is your is it easy to even is it possible to choose one of each?
I have a film. I thought about this. I got a few films that I watch annually. I think that my favorite horror film that I watch without fail every December, this is like one of my Christmas films. It's 30 Days of Night.
Oh,
Har-
that's a great film. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have other Christmas films that I watch every year, but I just 30 Days of Night to me is I like the comics and I also like Tim Lebbon's novelization. I like the entire like IP. I think it's been done really well in all of its iterations. Um I think that that has some of the best vampire carnage if you just enjoy good old vampire carnage, like that overhead shot. Oh, so good. And it feels wintry to me. So I know it's not very festive, but it's the
Alaska.
tone.
Yeah.
It's funny
Um,
you mentioned this because we just talked about negative comments. I remember in Ramsey Campbell's message board in the old days, someone ripping it apart, and I got angry and wrote in defense of it. And yeah, I remember that I've got that on DVD, but I haven't watched it for a while. Sorry, Kayleigh, continue.
oh no, so I just I really no matter how many times I watch that film, I thoroughly enjoy it just as much every single time. I just think it's I am a nitpicker. I'm like, oh well, if I spot a plot hole early on or something,
Yeah,
then it gets me going for the whole film. But that one I just feel is quite tight with the
yeah.
rules of the vampires and how everyone behaves. A TV show, this is not horror, but this is something I don't even know how many times I watched this start to end because I get to the end and I just start it again and it's always on in the background is Gilmore Girls.
Oh, I've never
Um,
seen it, but I know what it is. Yeah,
it's
Yeah.
not a perfect show or anything, but there's something about it that's really calming to me. So that's on in the background if I just want some company and I don't want to focus on it because I've already watched it, so I'm not going to get distracted if it's on. But I really enjoy that. I think a horror show that I have repeatedly. Do you know every other year I watch True Blood from start to end?
I gave up after season three when the was it
I understand.
yeah the fairies appeared or pixies or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, I completely understand. That's where a lot of people switched off for it,
Yeah.
but I quite enjoyed it. So
I loved it up to
I'll
that point. I was really into it, and then I was like, "Oh God, what's happened?" No, in fact, I bought it and I've not watched it. It's sitting on a shelf. The third season.
yeah. I don't know what it is about that. I don't know what it is about that show that I like so much. To watch it like every other year, but it's an every other year habit for some reason. I don't tend to reread books very much only because I've got so many review requests all the time and
Yeah, I can
unlimited reading
imagine.
time.
Yeah.
But books that I have read more than once. So I've read The Stand several times just over the
Oof.
course of the years.
Mm.
Um, and instead of reading a whole book, I'll often find myself going back to reread a short story or
Yeah.
a section of a book. So I really love The Mist, and sometimes I just dip
Wow.
in and I'll just read a few like certain paragraphs. The
Yeah.
opening. I don't have a lot of time to read The Stand in its entirety again these days, but I do love the opening of that book, so I reread that. And there's a couple of short stories. Um, Adam Neville's, any of the stories in Adam Neville's Weird and Other Derelictions,
Yeah.
I really like. And there's Sarah Langan's I Miss You Too Much, which is in one of Mark Morris's anthologies. That's one of the scariest stories I've ever read, and I am so obsessed, and I can't stop. I'll reread that if I'm like, oh, because I just keep wanting to read it. So I do want to reread a lot of stuff. I can't see it happening anytime soon with the
Yeah.
backlog of stuff I have.
Slightly disappointed that whenever you chose your best film, that you didn't decide to really wind people up and piss them off and choose 28 years later.
Yes, it's my favorite of all time.
Really just to sort of, pull the rug, mess with people's heads. Yeah.
Is there
my
anything that? Sorry, Kelly. Sorry.
no, no, go on, go on.
No, 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 no.
I was gonna say my consistent obsession for years was The Walking Dead. I haven't watched the later seasons more than once each, but the first few seasons I have watched like 1,000 times. I loved them, and I loved the comics, loved the novels that J. Bone and Zinger wrote. That was like a constant rotation of things for me for quite a while. I have sadly accepted that there was indeed a drop in quality now. I can admit it now, and I got help for this and I found a support group.
Well, do you know, I was one of the, it might sound pompous, but I watched the first two seasons and I was like, this is fantastic. And it was Frank Darabont who was in charge.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then they fired him. And I was one of the, I wasn't online writing about it or anything. I didn't post anything. But I was one of the group that said, I'm not going to continue to watch it if he's not involved. But I tried to watch the third season. It became too much for me, like the later seasons of Lost. It became so convoluted
Convoluted.
I look, I can watch things that are convoluted, but it felt like it was unnecessarily convoluted. And I thought that Darabont really understood the mechanics of that kind of landscape and what was actually happening. And I liked
Mhm.
that slow pace. I can watch things that are fast paced, but I liked that slow pace. And I thought it was more about the actual survival. Once they started having characters with samurai swords on their back, like the 15-year-old me was like, oh, this is cool. But it kind of took me out of what Darabont had done. I know it's based on the comics. I
Yeah,
but I'm very happy for people like Andrew Lincoln that it made him a star because I'd been watching him for years and things, and I was like, good for him. And
yeah,
quality cast all the way through, and it's
yeah.
brilliantly filmed. But it just, yeah, I just never went back to it, unfortunately.
That's one of the few times in life I've been outraged. I was like, how dare they fire Frank Darabont after he
Yeah,
spent 6 years adapting this to bring it to the screen in the first place? And I'm sorry, but who gets rid of Frank Darabont before they get to the prison?
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Did the
yeah,
Green Mile and the
exactly.
Shawshank Redemption, but yeah, boot Frank
Yeah.
Darabont. I was like, idiots.
But
Um,
this is the problem. This is what I was saying before about interaction because of social. I read, and maybe I was reading the wrong websites, but they were saying that it was a lot more of the fan disappointment with the first two seasons, that it was too slow, which was one of the primary reasons that they fired Frank Darabont. Maybe that's not true because a lot of people talk bullshit online anyway. But I could actually see that being a problem. And that's where I don't like fandom. I'm a fan and a geek, but I am not going to write stuff online saying, I want you to write the story so that you entertain me personally. I mean, what
That
arrogance must it take for you
that
to
that
actually
that is the
think that?
problem. Whenever like a new season of The Walking Dead or a new Star Wars film comes out, you get a lot of you get the impression that a lot of the sort of negativity is coming from a place of the story didn't work out how I had written it in my
Yeah,
head,
exactly.
and yeah, it's fair enough to be disappointed and all that sort of thing, but whenever you're spewing it online in this angry, aggressive manner, where what you say is gospel, it's not a good look. It pushes people off.
I think Frank Darabont is one of the best people literally in the world at adapting
He
stuff.
is,
I feel like he
without a doubt.
captured the
Look,
comic and he gave the comic fans what we wanted. And he's done
even
all of the
teamwork as
best
well.
Stephen King stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, The Mist and Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Green Mile.
Green
He's
Mile as well. Yeah.
phenomenal filmmaker, and yeah, like Viva la Frank! I love Frank Darabont. I think
Yeah,
he's
he is.
great.
He is. He might be
Um,
coming back. I've heard that there might be a project he's coming back on. I'm hoping it's a Stephen King adaptation, but I know
Yeah.
he was really disillusioned after the whole Walking Dead thing. I'm going to ask you one final question before we finish. Are you looking
yes.
forward to anything specific this year, whether it's a book, a show, or a film?
Yes, I'm really, really, really looking forward to whatever comes next with the Interview with the Vampire series. I think they're making the Vampire Lestat, and
Yeah.
this is the most excited I've ever been for the next season
Have you
of
seen the
anything.
trailer? Have you seen the new trailer?
Yeah, I usually avoid trailers, but I just couldn't resist because I think that that might be the best casting that's ever happened for Lestat, and
Without,
I
yeah,
I am so excited. I'm excited for many books this year. Top of my list, I was supposed to get an ARC of this, and I haven't had one So I didn't get one, but I'm looking forward to Eric LaRocca's Wretch, which if I don't get the ARC from the publisher or a copy from the publisher, I'm going to break my book buying ban to get it because that was already accounted for on my
Yeah,
TBR. So yeah, I'm looking forward to. I always just in general look forward to anything that Tim Leben is going to put out.
yeah.
Um, I'm looking forward to whatever Gemma and Moore puts out next. There's an author called Erica Summers. I got no idea what she's working on, but I love her, so I'm looking forward to whatever she does next. But yeah, I don't have any film. I don't even know what's coming out film-wise, but yeah, books and
The
that
th
TV.
the third 28 years later film.
Yeah.
Did you watch
What
Bone
did you think of the
Temple?
Bone Temple?
Did you watch Bone
Um,
Temple?
no, I've been trying to. Me, my husband, and my brother all want to watch that together, and we just haven't or been able to arrange it yet. But I will watch the Bone Temple, and uh,
It's
maybe.
magnificent. I think you will like it. I think it will not change your opinion of the first film, but I think you will actually. She's very talented, the director. She did the Candyman follow-on, and she's
Yeah,
fantastic.
well, I think my expectations have been tempered now because
Yeah,
what I was hoping for with 28 Years Later was something very similar to the first film.
very
And then
nice.
obviously it was so different, maybe I found it really jarring. But now that I know, like, okay, just reset all
Yeah.
expectations and see,
Yeah.
I think I'll like the next one more, but we shall see.
In the context of both films together, it makes the first one 28 years later, not the original from 2002, but it makes 28 years later feel like more of a setup for the Bone Temple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Kieran, who I do the Citizen Frame podcast with, like you, he also didn't like 28 years later, but loved the Bone Temple.
Okay, well, yeah, I am interested to see it, so yeah, maybe I'll try to get to that this week then.
Well,
And there's a new,
you got two
sorry,
phenomenal actors opposite each other in that film. In Bone,
Mhm.
it's worth it just seeing it for those. Jack
Yeah.
O'Donnell and Ralph Fiennes in it. And I would just say that it's worth. I can't tell you, and Trevor knows what I'm talking about. It is worth it, Kayleigh. For one, there's just I can't tell you, but if you love the original, you need to just watch this just for one thing in it, and you'll go. Like I got like a
especially,
flood
it,
of hope, a flood of endorphins when I watched that moment, and I was like, "Oh my
yeah,
God!"
Okay.
especially, Gilly, and I don't want to give too much away as well, especially with you being a heavy metal fan.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm
I'm
not talking
excited.
about that. Well, that is. Oh no, no, no! I can't. No, Trevor can't because
Right,
Say
you
she's
no
a
don't
horror
more.
spoil it.
fan. She'll guess. She'll guess. It's easy
Yeah.
for people like us to guess what's coming. Uh, Only because you love the originals. Just watch it for this. But yeah, the heavy. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, we're at the very end. I just want to say a massive thank you to you, Kayleigh. You're exactly what I was hoping you would be like for the podcast. It's absolutely fascinating listening to your opinion and everything. And thank you to Trevor as well for being my anchor.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
You're like my Kate Winslet in Titanic, and I'm like your Leonardo. Or maybe it's the reverse. I don't know, Trevor. I don't
We're like Richard and Judy.
know.
So, with you as Judy, obviously.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank
Thank you
you,
so much
Kelly.
for having me. This has been so lovely. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about my own writing and everything as well. I don't, that's very rare for me. I usually talk about everyone else's stuff, so that this has been lovely. Thank you.
Oh, and where can people find your books?
Oh, The End can be found from Black Shuck Books, or it's on Amazon, which is a little micro collection. And the best place to find me if you want to ask me anything is happygoathorror.com, on Facebook, Happy Goat Horror, or Kayleigh Dobbs, and on YouTube as Happy Goat Horror as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much to both of you. It's been fantastic. Have a magnificent Sunday. And Kayleigh, this will probably be up on Thursday or Friday.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Just let me
Okay.
stop the
Have,
recording.